Now, the property sector has welcomed the Reserve Bank's latest decision to hold the interest rate at 7.5%. The move follows 3 consecutive repo rate cuts since late last year as inflation declined from record highs. Now, business anchor Tumisang Ndlovu joins us to give us a little bit of reaction to this news. Tumisang, a very good afternoon to you. How has the property sector responded to the news around the current monetary policy stance?
Good afternoon, Mas, and a very good afternoon to our viewers at home. What is interesting is that the market had expected a cautious stance from the Reserve Bank, as we heard from Central Bank Governor Lesitja Kganyago. This decision, of course, is going to be looked at in terms of going forward. What does South Africa's monetary policy stance become given the global as well as local dynamics? Just yesterday, we saw the CPI numbers from Stats SA, consumer price inflation, remaining unchanged at 3.2%, but there is still hope further down the line within the South African context for further rate cuts in future. For now, though, it is a hold. I am joined by the CEO of Yawitz Properties, that's Herschel Yawitz. Thank you so much for your time. Expected, but what does it mean for a hold in the property market? Is it an easier way as opposed to what we saw previously, where there were interest rate hikes as opposed to cuts?
So I think you're right. I think anyone who thought that rates might come down, it's the triumph of hope over reality. But I think it's still positive. So the Reserve Bank governor has left the door open for further rate cuts. And I think the residential property market is driven by 2 factors: financial, so affordability, and sentiment. We've had 3 rate cuts over the last number of months. So from an affordability point of view, it's positive. Inflation remains low, so price increases are not escalating as quickly, better for disposable income. And because of these factors and factors like the politics in South Africa, which seems to be slightly better, sentiment is better. So I think we're going to continue to see a recovery in the residential property market, but clearly there's going to be some disappointment about the fact that rates weren't cut.
Talking about the affordability factor of things, Herschel, what has the property sector seen in terms of the 3 consecutive interest rate cuts that we received since late last year? There was a bit of cautiousness from the side of property buyers in that they will wait for further cuts.
Yes, so from a pure financial point of view, 3 rate cuts, it doesn't sound significant. But if you work it out monetarily, for example, on a R1 million home loan, the repayments are down by probably close to R1,000 per month. So it all adds up. And also adding into the fact that in most parts of the countries, for example, certainly in the Gauteng and most other regions, property prices at the moment are almost at historic lows. So in terms of buying, the residential market at the moment is offering incredible value. You layer on that the 3 interest rate cuts we've had, an improvement in sentiment, and we're certainly starting to see better buyer activity and more demand coming into the market.
I must ask the cliche question that comes with, is it a buyer's or a seller's market at this point?
It still remains very much a buyer's market in almost all parts of the country, other than possibly in the Western Cape, where demand remains strong and property prices remain high and supply is in relatively short demand.
As a parting shot, with regards to the political dynamics in South Africa, is it a conducive space for the property market to thrive?
I think that, there's always issues going on. So if you look at the last couple of months, we've had the Land Act. We've now got 0.5% increase in VAT. There are all sorts of other factors with America. So I think the politics doesn't help. But for the most part, I think South Africans are seeing their way through the politics and looking at the value that the residential property market offers. They're looking at improved financial situation and affordability. And despite the politics, that seems to be what's driving this renewed vigor in the residential market.
Thank you for your input. That is CEO of Yawitz Properties, Herschel Yawitz, there giving us reaction to that earlier on decision that we heard from the Reserve Bank, a decision to hold the interest rate at 7.5% for now.